are going to talk about the right angle cross of explanation.
In explanation, there are 4 different iterations in the right angles. I assume we're going to talk about all 4 of them. We're going to watch how it tic-tac-toes around each quarter, and each right angle cross exists in 4 quarters. Explanation is going to explain about all of that.
So if you would like to book a reading with Danny or myself, check out this QR code above, or I got the link down in the description down below. Be sure to use code AWAKEN for an extra 10% off. And we can hang out and meet up and talk about your chart and have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I can't wait. You'll be very happy when you book a reading with us.
Thank you to everyone who is watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, hanging out. We love having you, and let's get into it. Right angle cross of explanation involves the solar plexus, the ajna, and the throat. So this first version, right, because as Danny said, we have 4 different varieties that we're going to go through. So the first version in quarter 1, the quarter of initiation, which is about mental inspiration. This involves gates 49, 4, 43, and 23. And these people are born around February 7th through the 9th, depending on the year. This is the itinerant prophet addressing the principles behind necessity by pointing out what basic needs must be satisfied for all to survive, and it has sensitivity to those in need. Ra continues, writing across of explanation with the personality sun coming out of gate 49, it says, excuse me, food. Food intrudes. If we're going to move forward, we're going to need to have something to eat. We're going to have to take the life of an animal. This is where we see the deepest mystical level with the mammalian world. This is the beginning of religion, the root of animism. Not only looking at the past, it's looking at something else. Is there a God? Is there anything worth worshiping? This is also this channel of butchery and sacrifice. With the designed sun, earth in the 4323, there's a very strong individuality continued as a theme underneath. While operating through the 49, these are the people who are always trying to establish who belongs in the revolution. Gate 49 is always looking for an ally because at the deepest level, it's about sacrifice. This is the gate of being the sacrificer or the sacrificed. This is the gate of the butcher. It's important to understand the volatility of the emotional system. This is the gate of emotional principles operating in a wave, moving from hope to pain and back again, where there is no truth in the now. These people always have to explain themselves because they're always getting in trouble because of what comes out of the tensions from the violence that is in this gate. It's inherent in this gate. They get into a lot of arguments about who gets the best parts. Also, these itinerant prophets, the ones that think they can really explain things. As the bard says, methinks doth protest too
That's too
much.
much. Yeah.
They explain you to death. Of course, what often happens with the 4323, after they explain something to you, you walk away saying, I don't get what they mean. I don't know what they're talking about, and I really don't know what they tried to explain to me. Mutation isn't something that is easily transformed into language and articulated. It just doesn't work that way. There's a great deal of struggle attached with all of that. Since the right angle doesn't have transpersonal skills, it goes around saying, this is the principle. I want you to work with me, not because I care about you or because I want you or because I like you. It's not because of anything other than I need you there as there are more wolves than us. There isn't a great deal of care in that. With the personality sun in 49, you're going to meet the revolutionary that rarely has any followers. That's why they are always trying to explain themselves. No, no, really, if you come with me, but the other person knows that they're not really going to get anything. I'm going to build the church and he's going to sit in the front pew.
There's the same cross. This is the same cross. It's just that as the name changes for what's in the sun, the personality sun, in this case the 49, we truly slant towards that gate to give you what this cross is doing at the time, yet at all times, it's still all doing essentially the same thing. So overall, this cross is here to explain the principles in such a way that a formula is created and it has left the freak and it's turned into something that ultimately will take that pressure and that potential and turn it into something that the collective on the understanding side will get excited about and be able to implement and do, find some joy in, correcting and depth and solution-oriented place, very logical solution-oriented zone. So we need to get into that. We need to get into that. If we're going to have principles, they need to be explained. I need to explain the principles that I can then turn into a formula and get out of this zone of I sound like a freak. Ultimately, because if we explain a thing, out comes our uniqueness, and if it, that's the easiest thing to call someone. You're different. It's like, yeah, I realize that. I agreed. I'm different, you know.
I'm glad we are in agreement.
I'm glad we're in agreement. Great. This is great. My name's Danny. How are you? Right. 49 says, you can tell me your name all you want, but you better have something that fits with this revolution, or I can't quite have you. And the sacrificer and the sacrifice starts with, in this day and age, very much our time, our will, our spirit, our trust, our loyalty, our willingness. These are the things that we put on the block in order to have the principles be a success. And by the way, these principles are heavily informed by Gate 50 that gave us the values that will be embedded in our principles. Our principles will be of a certain value and values. And so 49 sort of the gatekeeper of all of this. That's why it's nervousness. It might be too much. It might not be enough. But ultimately, its partner across the way is Gate 4. And so Gate 4 is there to simply temper that heavy. This is a heavy emotional place. There's responsibility here. The pending responsibility here is incredible. And as Gate 4 comes along, it says, I'll make these formulas for you. I'll go ahead and put them right in the suggestion box. I'll make the formulas. The formulas will be there in the morning when the crew comes in to make it happen. I'll get it in there. And by the way, you got a loud enough mouth with this 49. You're emotionally charged enough with this 49. And people respect it enough generally as an energy in the world. We really do, by the way. Even if you don't respect a person with a gate 49, it doesn't matter. The energy is respected such that, we'll make sure it gets going. We'll make sure we go to work explaining it. So when gate 49 is in the sun position of this arm of the cross, it's making sure the explanation is going to go according to these very particular principles as it relates to any kind of revolution that may or may not be needed. Not everything needs to be a revolution, just like not everything needs to be fully corrected or is totally spoiled. It's some things are, and you got to keep vigilant eye. This is that vigilant eye on this side of things, essentially. Fear of failure, really, I should go to gate 32 more for it, but it all applies. And so that's what this is doing. It's in control of the explanation, in a sense.
The right angle cross of explanation. The second variety is part of the quarter two, which is the quarter of civilization. This is a very material and putting things out into the physical world kind of quarter. And so the order of these gates is 23, 43, 49, and 4. These people are born between May 9th and 11th, more or less, depending on the year. Ever the outsider, they are constantly explaining themselves or their often unique concepts, principles, and insights to integrate them into another person's revolutionary or analytical process. Ra continues, with a fixed mind connected to the throat, this is truly where the cross of explanation takes on its purest nature. The gate 23 is the gate of assimilation, is all about explaining oneself. The moment you have individuality, you have concepts, expressions, whatever's going to be new that's mutative. The first time an individual tries to explain her knowing, it come out sounding very bizarre. However, the individual has a kind of mechanism in them that forces them to repeat that. She'll keep telling you the same bizarre thing over and over again. After a while, it becomes familiar. You don't necessarily mutate somebody the first time. While there are mutations that just go bang, other mutations are based just on repetition until it becomes less and less alien to the collective mind. You eliminate most of the resistance. The writing across of explanation, this is somebody who is going to perfect that repetition right in your face, persisting with what their knowing is in hopes that if you hear it enough, you'll get it. You
We
say
do that with
something
human design.
constantly. You
Yeah.
say something and it is bizarre. So you say it again and a little louder. This is about trying to get the mutation inside of somebody. So forgive these people because they will keep on saying it until you are familiar with it. Then you say, yeah, 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 I heard that before. It is very difficult to be a freak. Those who carry individuality know that no matter what they do, they are always going to be the outsider. No matter how mutative they can be or potentially integrative, in fact, they're always on the outside and will always remain on the outside.
That's basically all of us people. I mean, right? That's basically everyone. So when it's the 23 is in the sun, then the focus becomes on the unique and the mutative. And what it wants to do is empower everyone with its beautiful voice that says, I explain. I explain. I'm explaining. I can explain this. Oh my God, I've got the explanation for this. And it's got this empowering sort of type of, excitement about being able to do that as long as it's coming out right. And if it's in the process where it just has to keep repeating itself, It does so aided by the rest of the cross. The principles are there to do that. The formulas make enough sense as you go through the factory of formula making to where ultimately, by the way, this cross is got a feature about it that's worth mentioning. Because of the definition it makes between the ajna and the throat, because three of these gates are in ajna and throat, it guarantees that this cross is at least three-quarters in defined centers for everyone. So it's a high potential that all of them are in a defined center or connected in a partnership somewhere. It's just worth mentioning. It means it's always on for the person. They're always aware. They're not having to wait very long to live out this cross. And 23 says, I explain. And in that explaining, it empowers. And in that empowering, it draws from the 43, the last one I hadn't gone through yet, where the insights are coming through that give the power. The insights are like the secret Superman power, and the 23 is the Superman itself saying it all, because that's where it comes made into life. And the 43 is the Clark Kent sort of waiting to go into a phone booth somewhere. Not that they have phone booths anymore, I'm pretty sure. Think about what it's saying. It's saying the empowerment here is the principles must have an explanation that's made manifest. And the tools are I've got logic and I've got the rest of the ajna process to make it happen. So now the principles basically lock in the ajna to go to work so that the explanation can be empowered. And that's what's so important on this one. So these people are going about it. It's conscious in them. There's a conscious 23, 43. They got something to say. I mean, if 23 is conscious, then 43 is conscious. That's how it works. And so they have tons to say, and the saying of it is the juice for them. And so that's how they uniquely get this arm of the cross this way into what it becomes civilization. This is the unique mutations that bring the right principles as to what are we building here? What is this mutation? What are we bringing into the thing? How are we going to make sure it is unique and us? How do we make sure this is nine centered? Because that's the thing. The efficiency of 43 and 23, its most efficient thing is technically describing and creating things that are of the nine centered nature. That's where it's most mutatively powerful. That's where its greatest aha moments come. It can be shared, it can be empowered, it can be all of this. And here the joy and the rigor for that is based in the 23. I got the explanation, I can explain it, I can explain it.
To the third variety of the cross of explanation. This takes place in the quarter of duality. Duality, you can think like two people. It's very relationship. It's about bonding. And it's 449, 23, 43. These people are born around August 11th through the 13th. People whose job it is to explain revolutionary and principled solutions. Untested individual knowing necessitates clarifying and repeating insights which have been filtered through logic's formulas. Ra continues. This variety has a need for expression, a need to bring out knowing. The individual process is translating an illusionary inner acoustic into an actual acoustic. I heard the answer in my head, but I can't get it out of my mouth. This is the difficulty of that acoustic translation of why individuals have such a hard time and need to work on the explanation. If you have a child with gate 23, you need to invest a great deal of time in listening to them explain so they can get practice and learn how to articulate and express themselves because it's a very difficult process. With the sun in gate 4, it can be both beautiful and terribly amusing. After all, that is its job. The fact that they come up with an answer doesn't mean that answer is right. The job of this gate is to come up with answers. So if you are living with the gate, you think you have the answers, but it doesn't mean that the answer is true. It's just coming up with answers. For it to be true, it has to become an opinion, which is gate 17, that is then substantiated by detail, which is gate 62, which is turned into experimentation, which is then verified. The logical process demands a great deal. What you have in the fourth gate is theory. I think this is the answer. These are people who try to explain to you what they think the answer is. On this cross, one has difficulty in translating what you hear within yourself as an answer, and then you have to bring it out through the 2343, out through the individual metamorphic process. These are people who are always trying to tell you the answer, and it takes them years because it doesn't come out right. As an individual, they keep on repeating the bizarre in hopes that it will become familiar. This variation of the cross is full of theorizing that loses its logical quality because it has to become individual. I don't want to give these people a bad reputation, but they come up with the quirkiest theories, creating some of the really bizarre we have out there. They have a great deal of trouble trying to back it up and explain it. However, every once in a while, we do get good out of that, not to give them a bad name.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't give a bad name to a cross. It's just that the not self will give a bad name to everything. Forced formalization is called youthful folly. So here's where there is a certain youthful folly, but the thing is, it comes at one tiny cost. The fear of gate four is chaos, mental, logical breakdown of things creating chaos, in what patterns that are supposed to be working. So thus the lights don't come on anymore. Chaos. The bank machine stops spitting out money. Chaos type thing. Or simple things in your life. And so when things break down, it's real, and that fear is there to make it intelligent. So basically, it's almost immune from prosecution as it invokes its principles to create the right explanations. Because in this iteration of it, four's in duality, starting out this quarter of duality, we're here to bond. This is what most emotional stuff is here to do, to figure out what is the bond. What is the closeness? What is the thing I can actually trust? The quarter of duality is also building willingness and trust into all of this as we bond. And four is the formula to help guide the sails for all of that. Theorizing. And it can be maddening because unconsciously, when it gets to 2343, you're right, it can no longer fully be the logical process, even though its explanation may metamorphosize back into a logical process. It's just on its way out. It can't be that because it's unique, freak, individual. This channel, by the way, 4323, is keynoted genius to freak. I mean, we have to take that seriously. We can't just look at that as, oh, that's cute, that's funny, and laugh it off. If you have the whole channel, or even just the 43, you'll experience it. Experience like I've got the sound rolling around in my head. I tried to explain it, and suddenly it's just not coming out right, and I look like a freak because it's coming out with passion and oomph. There's a gate 49 behind it, starting up the mystical process for humanity's emotional awareness as to where do we fit in the stars. Like literally, it's got, for the 440, it's got the 23 and the 43 in it. So you add all that up, it's gate four is in charge of all that basically. It helps lead the way and de-accentuate. The grounding of gate 49 in the earth would be informed by gate four, sunshine pouring in on it. And so a little more grounded would be 49 in the material way that really should come together. Meaning it do a little more work on its grounding side than it would on its sun side, the 49 here, is what I think. I just like how it loses everything at the 4323. The principles and the logic, they're deconstructed like a Buffal Various experience and then reconstructed again through metamorphosis of this movement between 43 and 23, where 23 becomes the metamorphic gate, and then back out into a vocalization it comes. And at that moment, you're a genius if you nailed it, because it's like, this is the voice that gets the, oh, wow. I never, we need that on planet Earth. I would like to have that happening all the time. So it's efficient at finding that. That's what part of its efficiency is. And so it's efficient at bringing the formula forward. It's just efficient in a roundabout kind of way.
Of the cross of explanation. This is quarter four, the quarter of mutation. It's very transformational because we're shifting from the last one back into quarter one eventually. And this is 43, 23, 4, and 49. These people are born around November 11th through the 13th. People whose knowing has a revolutionary quality about it. The root of understanding begins with efficiently and logically explaining one's revolutionary insights. Inner ear, inner acoustic phenomena. With the personality in gate 49, one of the previous varieties, with the cross of explanation, the gate 49 explains why the revolution is necessary. With the personality in gate 4, these people give the answers to things. With the personality sun in gate 23, this is where the explanation is the explanation itself. And with 43, this current one, this variety 4, we have a reticent and often deep incapacity to be able to explain anything at all. It doesn't mean they can't, but that's often the case. With the 43, the theme is one of individual insight and the individual inner acoustic phenomenon. It's not about fulfilling it, it's simply about the insight itself, the inner thought process itself. All the stuff she had inside that she was going to talk about and bring out, she can't express it. Remember how difficult it is to turn off inner acoustic illusion, the inner insight into actual language. That is translation. Translation changes the work into a new work based on the origin, but is not the same. Translating the 43 to the 23 is a very difficult thing to do. Freaks, after all. Unable to explain yourself, you are the freak. But if you can explain yourself, you are considered to be very intelligent. These people give up on trying to explain themselves, but they know inside themselves they have a sense of truth and permanence, a sense of security and
Yeah.
knowing. With individual children, especially with the 4323, encourage their capacity to articulate and explain themselves. Get them to practice with their throat to get things out. Ask them what is on their mind and get them to go through that process because it makes it easier for them to translate. Like learning a new language. First, it's active translation, then becomes second nature. It's very important that the 4323 is given practice and is nurtured.
Yeah, the practice is so important. The 4323 has to start everything right at the beginning, or the freak will lose its way. And the freak is a beautiful thing. And really, it is the genius and the intelligent one because it does know. It's the knower. It knows that it knows what it knows. It knows it's trying to say. As it gets more experience with itself and looks at the right timing, because it's a projected channel, this knower just gets better at when it's worth explaining, and when it's worth getting that explanation out. And 43 in this position in the cross of explanation is essentially basically the source of the explanation itself, the source of the actual concept that becomes the outer authority. Words translated through 23 is what comes here. And 43's desire to break through is incredible. Its insights are so profound. This is a place that is like so giddy to empower the other, because each thing is this fanciful new thing that I can say. At least in the noise in my head, I can say it. So it's there as this potential waiting to come out. And so the pattern here is the principles say we're going to wait till that comes out. That's part of our cross, and we darn well are going to explain this. The revolution may be the unconscious side of this particular iteration of the cross, but it's still there. And so it is aware ultimately that there's formulas and principles coming in. It's a lot like the laws. The laws had a unique mutative channel on the bottom with 60 and 3. And then they have, and then they have, it's a little different than an individual, but they have a collective explainer, a throat gate, along with 50. So they split it up like that. But here it's the individual's definition of the explaining, and that's individual business explaining. Making the other understand is at the other end of an explanation, where if the explanation works, we finally hop into and we gain access to and we get a first class ticket if we're lucky into the out of the explanation business into the understanding business and the identifying business. And now we got supportive opinions and details, and we go about corrective actions to make something work, something stable, looking into the future, something the army can get behind. In gate 7, something gate 5 would love to just set a pattern to. Yeah, let's set that. That's good. We like that. That's what it's doing here. So the freak has to wait for 43 to actually let it out. The breakthroughs are sizzling inside, and this is a freak mind, and it's loud and it's noisy in there. And you're deaf to the other. By the way, if you have this channel, a lot of times you're just not listening, just like struggle and the centering circuit of 410. Just be aware of that. You can't tell necessarily what the principles are until their explanations are right. Other than that, this person could easily get accused of not having the right principles, and your revolution can't be anything. The revolution isn't to turn everything over, it's to simply bring the new and bring the explanation into the mutative form. The more that happens, the better chance we have of spirit finding its energy to work and move towards communion and its ultimate contribution. I like this iteration. I have a gate 43 and I wicked like it. My breakthroughs, they're maddening to me. I just learned the right timing, mostly. I still have MG disease. Oops, you weren't done yet. but mostly.
Tying it all together as a conclusion with the right angle cross of explanation with the solar plexus, ajna, and throat, articulating insights and explaining complex ideas to others through the gates 43 and 23. Individuals are driven to share breakthroughs, often seeing patterns or truths others miss. They excel at translating abstract concepts into practical understanding. The purpose is to explore, learn, and teach new ideas that initiate others into new possibilities. Gate 4, and the role is to clarify and communicate truths, often challenging conventional thinking to spark transformation. Gate 49.
This is just like the laws. I love this. Just let them explain their thing. If your kid has this, he's got to explain it. And like the lesson said earlier, you let 43 and let this whole cross really talk itself out so it can get its steadfast feature of 49, which is emotional business. It can get its identifying of I'm not stupid from its youthful folly that you always let them talk so that they can see how they are logical in that way. And then you let them have the unique nature that you don't even need to accentuate that much. It's always going to be there as themselves. And if you don't make a big deal out of it, it won't look too closely at itself and do what all uniqueness does. It's perfect in the pulse. It's perfect in the now. It's perfect as its unique individual knowing. It knows in the now. So explain it in the now and apply the principles that definitely support the laws of the land and do that with good formula and good speed and good detail, please. And that's this cross. Hey, by the way, this is the right angle. You're self-absorbed. You're self-concerned. You're creating the karma, as well as living out other people living out the karma. But recreate the karma. The right angle creates it on this plane, and that karma is an energy. So just be aware you're supposed to be sort of looking inward and a little more self-concerned. This is lower trigram business, and go ahead and explain yourself so everyone can know what's going on up there. So, what do cross of explanation people do to people who don't want to hear them explaining stuff?
Write
What
it
do they
down until you find somebody who wants to listen to you.
Yeah, you move along, essentially. You recognize time to re-navigate a little bit, slowly move from one thing to another so you can explain yourself over there. Find communion in the right way, really. If you're cross explanation, you are unique. You're not going to be for everyone. I don't know why, frankly. You've got that tribal hook into things, creating that loyalty, leading right to the ego. It's only one gate away from it, 37. It's companion.
If you are interested in getting a reading with Danny or myself, then you can check out right above here the QR code. You can click that. We also have the link down in the description below. And be sure to use code AWAKEN for an extra 10% off because I love a deal. So if you want to meet up with us, we want to hang out and talk about your chart, we can help you. So check out that link.
Awaken's more than just a code. It's also an activity. So come in and bring yourself in for this analysis. It's really just such a beautiful process.
Absolutely. So thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching, liking, subscribing. It really helps us out. We are almost at 1,000 subscribers. It's a whole big deal. So thank you for being here with us for that. And thank you for
Yeah,
asking questions and your comments. We love them. So thank you a whole lot. And we will catch you next week for another stream.
awesome. Thank you. And I love you very much, everybody.